Hi, I'm Paul Ostermanier, and this is Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. So, Jen, this week we're teeing off on a job ad so niche, it makes the episode we recorded a few weeks back for the dog walker and household coordinator look like entry level work. This family office wants to meet their new golf companion. It's a full time gig where the main responsibility is hitting the links with a wealthy family because apparently things they need doing. And those things involve grip tips and small talk. There's a catch though. Half the year you're in Toronto, the other half you're in Singapore because nothing says work life balance like jet lag with a side helping of cross cultural firewalking in the mix. Reading this job ad ahead of time, it left me with just one question. Is this a job or an audition for a reality show about the 1% of jet setters? Are you ready to roast?
I am ready to roast this post. I don't know what grip tips are, but I like the sound of that, so I'm ready.
You might not be qualified for this job then.
Probably not, considering I've mini golfed and that's about it. But the fact that there's a job out there like this is pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to this one.
You know, the first thing I thought when I read this job ad was, oh, this is really neat. I think that this kind of reminds me a little bit of that family from Crazy Rich Asians. And I think this might be like one of those. So let's get into it. This is a cool one.
Can I ask you first, where did you find this job posting? How did you find this?
Indeed. This was on
Okay.
Indeed. Yeah, it was just like the one that you found for the dog walker. It was posted on a platform and it was like written out as an actual job ad with a bunch of stuff. It was kind of neat. But anyway.
Very cool. Okay, so it's called Golf Companion.
Golf companion. So we'll start off with the roasty profile per the usual. For the folks at home, Jen has not seen this ahead of time. So we're kind of throwing it at her and she is reacting in real time to it. We'll go through the job ad. Then we will get into guessing the salary because that's also a thing we like to do. We'll take a short break. Jen can read through the job ad and we'll come back at the end to score the ad and give people who are looking for a job like this or people who are writing a job ad like this some tips and some advice based on how we read it. All right. So job title is Golf Companion. The report to title is unknown. The company size is also unknown. The industry is family offices. What do they do? Well, this family office, they do things. Things, presumably things, and also things. The details, yeah, they're murky. We just don't know. Head office location, it's in Toronto, here in Canada. Job location, Toronto, here in Canada, and Singapore. We will get into that for sure. Geographical operating area is unknown. We don't know. Job type, permanent, full-time, and it's an on-site job. Now, this job description or this job ad, unlike many that we roast, this one is very short. So I'm going to break our rule. Instead of just cherry picking bits and pieces out of each section for us to talk about it, I'm going to go through the whole thing. The way that it was written, it kind of self-reinforces, and the points that it makes, they really tie together. It's not super long, so we'll break our rule and go through the whole thing. The job ad itself, it's structured with a few different sections. We've got the position overview, that's one section, candidate profile, primary responsibilities, applicant qualities, experience. So those are the job sections. And I'm going to read this out verbatim. So folks at home, if I kind of trip over things and stumble a little bit, I'm just reading it how they wrote it. And that's half the fun when we do these. Beginning with the position overview. We're seeking an experienced golf companion for a family located in Toronto. The successful applicant will be responsible for supporting the principals with regular golf practice between May and September. During the off season, the candidate will travel to Singapore to continue working with the family. This position is full-time, live out, work days and hours will align with the family's schedule. Next section is the candidate profile. You're an experienced and knowledgeable golfing professional ready to be both a coach and a practice partner. You understand how to communicate clearly with your principals and enjoy practicing English with them. You're knowledgeable about North American culture and lifestyle. You're a discreet and polished professional with a university degree. Now, I'm going to pause there. Was there anything that stuck out in those first two sections, the reading of it for you, that you want to talk about?
I mean, what stuck out to me is the fact that this is a job that some that's wild. Um, yeah, there are a few things actually. Um, so off season, during the golfing season, I imagine they're in Toronto golfing with the family. Off season, they're in Singapore with the
Mhm.
family. And I wonder what they're doing there. Are they also spending time golfing, or coaching golfing with his family? I wonder about who is paying for this travel and accommodation. Like if part of the job is asking you to also live in a different country, are they helping with like visa requirements? Are they paying your rent? Are they paying your rent back home in Toronto so that you don't lose your space or your mortgage, whatever your situation is? Um, they need to be, what did you say about North American culture? They needed to be,
So what they say, this is verbatim how it's written out in the job ad. You're knowledgeable about North American culture and lifestyle. You
okay.
are a discreet and polished professional with a university degree.
So yeah, I guess those are the things that stand out to me. This is to me, it's a family office job. It sounds like they're newcomers to North America and they would like someone to teach them how to golf and also teach them some of the cultural norms of a country that they're unfamiliar with. So to me, this isn't just a golf companion, but I'm really curious to hear more about it. There's a lot more to what this role requires. And so the wheels are
Yeah.
turning about what kind of the pay might look like for this. Again, living arrangement, all of that stuff. Really interesting. Good find.
Yeah, certainly this comes off a little bit as kind of a cultural tutor
Yeah.
or cultural Sherpa sort of thing alongside the golfing stuff. Like the way that at first glance, the way this kind of reads and what we've talked about so far is like, okay, so you're basically looking for someone who has been a golf pro at a course or a club, right? To kind of go private and work only for this family. But then there's this other stuff that kind of creeps in there a little bit too, which makes it make a bit more sense that this is an actual job, right? Because the first thing that pops into my mind with this is, okay, why are you hiring a golf companion to teach you how to play golf on a permanent full-time basis with a salary attached to it? Like that already exists. You can get a membership at any country club
Yeah.
anywhere and you can learn how to play golf there. And the golf pros are fantastic. The coaches are fantastic. They already kind of do that. So why make this a thing?
This is where I go back to them, likely this family being newcomers to the country. Maybe they don't quite feel comfortable yet going to a golf club or a
Yeah.
private country club or whatever. Maybe they want to learn those norms first before they set foot in those areas. Because I mean, let's be honest, they're not going to be the most inclusive.
Yeah.
So maybe they want to speak a little bit more of the language. Maybe they want to, yeah, understand just like I said, some of the cultural norms. So maybe that's why. But you mentioned somebody who works at a golf club. I'm also thinking about maybe this is someone who is a student or a recent grad.
Yeah.
Um, so they're, you know, sports scholarships, things like that. There are a couple options of what it is they could be looking for. Someone who might be really well suited to this role. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I'm going to carry on with and I think I'm probably just going to read out the last three sections because again, this is quite a short job ad compared to a lot of the ones that we wrote. So we'll get through the entire thing and then we'll kind of circle back with more holistic comments on it. So the next section is primary responsibilities. And as usual, all bullet points. Like we like to say that this show is about teasing out the story behind the bullet points. First bullet point, daily golfing with the family. Then there's coach family on proper golfing techniques. Then there is speak English with the family to help them improve.
Mhm.
The next section after that is applicant qualities. Excellent English communication skills and professional personal presentation. Excellent golf proficiency, prior coaching experience and asset. University degree as asset. Sick. That's how it's written. Especially in finance or kinesiology. Next
Okay.
bullet point is must maintain privacy and confidentiality always, exercising diplomacy, discretion, and respecting appropriate boundaries. Must be legally entitled to work in Canada. A valid driver's license is required. Then the last section is experience. Golf coaching, 5 years, preferred. License or certification, driver's license and vehicle, required. Willingness to travel, 75%, preferred.
Wow.
Work location, in person, and job type, full time. So that is the job ad in its entirety. And the back half of that, you might say the last 9 holes remaining in this job ad.
Or
That
not.
was a
Or don't say that.
that was a terrible joke. The back half of this job ad kind of rounds out some of the stuff, right? Like they were talking early on about how the ideal person is going to be knowledgeable about North American culture and lifestyle, discreet and polished, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then they're talking about like, okay, you've got a university degree in kinesiology or finance. That kind of made me stop and think, like, what's up with that? But what did you think? Like, what were your impressions of that first?
Like daily golfing? That's a lot of golfing.
A lot of golf.
But it's a lot of golf, and it just like it that's a full-time job. It's interesting to me. So they say speak English with family, help them to improve. So again, this to me is reading like these are newcomers to the country. It's a family. I imagine that there are children involved. They speak a couple of times to having a driver's license. So I wonder if this golfing coach is also going to be somewhat of a chauffeur. Maybe they're doing golfing with the parents and then running to the school to pick up the kids, bringing them to the golf course. Like it's very golf centric. And this is another kind of indicator to me that maybe this is a family who is not, hasn't been living in the country for very long because like the focus is on golf. It's like there are other activities, but it's so stereotypical that golf would be the thing. If they have the money to hire someone to do this as a full-time job, then they have a lot of money. And so their perception of what it means to have a lot of money is golf. So that's really interesting to me. Degree in finance, kinesiology. Kinesiology makes sense. Maybe they will help the family kind of stretch before, during, and after, or help with any like
Yeah.
golf related injuries. It's the finance degree that I find to be really interesting. And I think that when we say that there's a story behind the bullet points, this is exactly what we're talking about. Like, what would you guess then that this family does for a living based
Yeah,
on
I
information?
this smells like international finance to me.
Yeah.
This really seems like the family is, as you say, they're kind of relocating to Canada, probably as a part of their career. Like it's a professional move. I'm imagining that they're a part of a hedge fund or something that operates out of Asia. Like they're normally based in Singapore. That's kind of where they're from. They're coming to North America to, I don't know, build a beachhead for their firm. Maybe that's kind of what they're doing. The finance thing in that kind of context, it made sense to me. The finance thing did make sense to me because, like, if they want this person to be a bit of a confidant and a bit of a person that they can talk stuff through with on the links, that
Yeah.
starts to make a lot of sense. Like the undiscussed or undisclosed role creep that we're kind of seeing come together through the bullet points is starting to paint a picture of like why this is an actual job versus they're just going to like the golf and country club
Yeah.
to hang out and learn how to play golf. Like this more and more kind of seems to me like a job where you went to university perhaps on a golf scholarship, like you were saying.
Mhm.
You are finished that now. You've got your You've got your BA finance or your BM finance or whatever it is, like whatever degree it is, BCom doesn't matter. You've got that in the bag now, and you're trying to start your career. Well, why not this? Combine those two things, right? The kinesiology thing, that made no sense to me. I would imagine someone bringing on or saying, like, you have a degree in sports medicine. That would make a ton of sense. Sports medicine, yeah, absolutely. Like maybe this family is thinking that their kids will go to the pros or something, or go to university on their own golf scholarships one day. So you want them kind of, to be able to keep in peak condition. Kinesiology didn't quite line up with that, but it's kind of in the same like area, I suppose.
Well, it could speak to as well, if they're not from this country, maybe a degree in kinesiology means something a bit different where they're from, right? Like maybe
Maybe.
there's a communication clash, which brings me to the question of kind of who wrote this job posting. Because you would think a family office looking for a role like this would go through a recruitment firm or their own
Mhm.
family office, their house manager or whatever they have. But I don't know that they have that. Like I think they're really starting from zero in this country. And yeah, they're looking for someone, like you said, who can talk business, finance on the links, which will help when we go back to their desire to have someone who can teach them a bit more English. Um,
Mhm.
Specifically about the like practicing speaking English when it comes to speaking about the finance world.
Mhm.
Right. So it's really interesting to me that a role like this would be posted on Indeed because it's quite specific. And I think that they
Mhm.
could find what they're looking for if they targeted schools, alumni networks, and places like that, or even going to golf shops. Yeah. So it's interesting to me that you would find a job posting like this on Indeed. It's also a little bit like, wait a minute, spidey senses are tingling. Is this real? Is this a real job? It feels like it feels like it's not like a daily, like a golf companion, a full-time golf companion. The other question is 75% travel. Like, does the job posting speak at all to how they support the person? They say that they must be able to like live legally and work legally in Canada. What about Singapore? Does it mention anything
No.
about that? No.
Doesn't say anything, and that was definitely a red flag for me as I was reading through this. The details were very, very sparse. Like earlier on, you said, okay, what does it look like when you're in Singapore? Like, are you arranging and paying for your own housing? Are you living with them while you're traveling through Singapore? Are they arranging housing? What about the visa side of it? Um, don't know, don't know, and none of those details are really clear. So I would be, if I was looking at this job and thinking, I want to apply for this, those are all gaps that would make me think maybe this isn't actually a real job, because we know that employment fraud is on the rise, and
Yeah.
we know that there are lots of scams out there, right? Maybe this is just light enough on details that some people would pick up on it and be like, I think they're trying to kidnap me. Maybe I won't do this.
Yeah, like they're gonna torture me and ask me all about golf. Does it talk about, was that the job posting? Like, does it talk about
That was the entirety of the job posting. Yeah, it was
how
very short.
so you apply through Indeed?
You apply through Indeed.
Interesting. Yeah,
Mhm,
that's really interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, situations like this when the job postings seem too good to be true. I'm not saying that this is a scam, but like it seems too good to be true. This is a full-time job traveling and teaching a family how to play golf. Like, sounds pretty cool. If I were into golf, I would be like, and I didn't have a family and I wasn't pushing 50, I'd be like, this sounds pretty cool.
that's the
But
realm. That's the realm.
right?
75% travel, right? Plus it's saying you're going to spend 6 months of the year, in another country. That's a specific person, one who does not have roots and is not tied down to their community and does not have a family.
Again,
Unless you're willing to separate from your family, and some people are, but it's
yeah.
not ideal.
No, no, no. 75% travel is a lot of travel, but that's where we go back to new grad. And I feel like perhaps
Mhm.
they're posting this in the wrong place. And we talk about this a lot on the show about you need to understand who's your ideal candidate profile. What is the ideal
Yeah.
candidate profile? Design that first. So figure out all of the things, and they have it. They have it in there. They know who it is that they're looking for, and then design the job posting for that person. You will find each other. right? It's somebody is looking for something just like this, and then you've got an ideal candidate. You will find each other at some point, but you have to go through the right channels, and you have to speak to that person. Right now, this is a very vague job posting, and you're not necessarily going to find that person through Indeed. I mean, I don't know if anyone has posted jobs on Indeed. You get applicants with, I mean, wildly
Yeah,
unrelated to the job that you've posted. So
the
there,
Wild West.
yeah, absolutely. So there are better ways to design the job, and then focus in on, okay, we need someone who maybe isn't tied down with a family. We need someone who maybe is a little bit younger. All of those things, figure that out, design for that individual. Imagine it's one person. Imagine it's your soulmate, right? Do like a vision board for this job. And that's how you should begin, like point zero with
Yeah,
designing a job ad. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting you bring up how Indeed is kind of the Wild West, and you get candidates that are just wildly mismatched for what you're looking for. Not too long ago, I actually learned a little bit more about the innards of Indeed's business model. So Indeed makes money by employers running campaigns, basically ad campaigns that are kind of in the pay-per-click model. So they monetize. They say, all right, company who's going to post an ad. That's great. We're going to put it in front of our audience, targeted and segmented, and all this. And you will pay per interaction or bucket of interactions for people who actually engage with that ad. So they're basically saying, like, for every 100 clicks on the ad, you're going to pay us X dollars. That's how they make money. So they're not incentivized structurally to have high quality fit matches between the job ad and the people coming in. They're incentivized to create engagement. It's the same kind of inshiftification that you see in advertising on Instagram and Meta and all these social media platforms that are now like really, really ad dominated and ad driven. The incentive mismatch is kind of there. So that I think partly explains why you see such wild stuff on Indeed when you're an employer.
Well, and here's the thing. So a lot of people post administrative type, like lower barrier to entry jobs on platforms like Indeed. But what you're saying, and those are the jobs that you get a lot of applicants for. So what you're saying is they're going to be paying by per click for that. You're getting a lot of applicants for administrative or coordinator type roles. It is not financially worth it for you as an organization to post administrative level jobs on Indeed. It's like
Mhm.
it's such a waste of your money. So again, you have to think more strategically. Who is your ideal candidate? Where are they? That's how you try to find your candidates. That's how you build your talent pool. It's not just by thinking Indeed is the easiest way. I mean, it depends. If you have money to burn and you want to do it that way, absolutely. But you're going to get unqualified candidates, and you're going to pay a lot of money for it. So there are better ways to do that.
Yeah.
And it's not Indeed. So think about which platform you're using and for what. But we got
Yeah.
way off track. We're talking about a full-time job at a family office as a golf companion.
We went on a little tangent down like a side road there. Are you saying that happened to us? Never. That never happens when we're taping an episode. Man.
No, no, no.
That's actually a pretty good segue, getting us back on track. And the last thing we talked about being like money. That's a great segue into what I maintain is my favorite part of the show, where you get to guess the salary and I get to look at the number and say, "Ooh, are you right?"
I hate this part of the show. I find it to be mortifying. I'm really off. I'm very generous with the salaries because I think I can't help but guess what I think it should be paid, not what the reality of the situation is. And so I tend to go over significantly. However, I think that this is a wealthy family. I
Mm,
think that this is a very important position that they're hiring for, and they might see it. I read it as them seeing it as almost like someone that they're bringing into their family, and
mhm.
therefore they might be willing to pay a whole heck of a lot for that.
Yeah.
So I would guess, and again, like Singapore ties, we're talking about finance. They want someone who has a university education. So those are things that are going to bring the salary up, in my opinion. Toronto. So I'm going to guess that the annual salary in Canadian dollars for this role is like $125,000 a year. That's my guess. That's what I hope it is for a full-time private golf companion.
You're pretty close. You're pretty close. So the range that they put down was 100,000 a year to 120,000 per
Okay.
year.
Okay.
And when you take that number and you contextualize it with just like you're hiring a full-time golf buddy for 120K a year, it sounds crazy. Like that sounds wackadoodle. But the story that kind of teased out as we were going through this and talking about this job ad was that this is a lot much more like a consigliere type thing
Yeah.
than it is like a golf pro type thing. Like this person, they'll be kind of a trusted advisor on
Yes.
cultural issues and on other stuff. And if the person that comes in does have a finance degree, we'll probably be talking about business on the golf course too. Like that becomes much more of a strategic partner than it does a golf coach. So like that higher salary, yeah, kind of makes sense. Kind of
Yeah.
makes sense through that lens.
It does. And I think that if this is not a scam, if this is a legitimate opportunity, it's a phenomenal one. If you are into
Oh,
golf
for a new grad?
for a
Hmm.
new grad, it's a phenomenal opportunity. I would caution, like we said, we don't know if this was legitimate or not, but I would caution anyone who, whatever the interview process ends up being, uh, maybe do a Zoom first. Um,
Yeah.
even then, though, like I have a friend who is a full-time recruiter, and she was saying that they did a Zoom interview with someone who was using full-on like AI. They
Mm.
weren't themselves, and when they couldn't answer specific questions, they just ended the call themselves. They were like, "We're just going to stop this right now," and ended the call. So even then, I would be cautious. But the first step would definitely be something on video. And if you need to meet someone in person, do it in a public place,
Go to the
because
course. Go
go
to
to
the
the
course
course.
and play nine, right?
That's a
Public
really
play.
good point. Yeah, even if you go to a driving range, do the interview at the like, suggest that. They might really like that. It shows
Yep.
how, like, into the golf you are. But just be cautious because this when it's a private family office and it's not run through, like, a management company, it this could be anyone.
Mhm.
So, yeah, be overly cautious. Maybe have a friend go with you sitting at a different table or something like that. But don't go it alone. If it's real, phenomenal. This is a fantastic opportunity, and I'm proud that I was really close to the salary for the first time ever.
I think this is the closest you've ever been. Good for you.
True. I think it is too. Yeah.
So that takes us into our intermission. We will be back in a little bit, folks. So Jen's going to turn off her camera. She's going to read through the job ad. We will come back in a couple of minutes and we'll do the final scoring and wrap up for the show. Stay tuned, y'all. Hey, everybody, we are back from our intermission and break there, where Jen took a little bit of time to read through the job posting. She's got kind of more of the first person context on it. We're going to go into scoring this job ad as we do every single week. There are two things that we score on, of course. We score the job ad itself, how it was written, does it make sense, et cetera, et cetera. And then we score the role design. Does the role make sense? Is this sustainable? Is it a job that you can actually do long term without things going all belly up? So, with that in mind, beginning the scoring, Jen, what did you think about the job ad itself? How would you score that out of 10 and why?
Oh, I really like the job ad. I think it's a really cool, interesting job. I think they give a lot of important information. I think that when it's a family office, it's a little bit more of a challenge. A lot of times we talk about how if it's an
Mhm.
organization, they're not giving enough about their culture. They're not giving us that kind of like employee value proposition. Why would someone want to work here? It's harder to do that when it's a family office job, so that's okay. I, they listed the salary. I'm giving them points for that. They don't talk about really what the interview process looks like, and they don't talk about, yeah, benefits or anything else. Like, do you have health coverage? You're
Mhm.
traveling a lot. Is that included? Like, you really need a bit more information to attract the candidates. And so that's lacking. But it's not the worst job ad I've ever seen. I mean, if you've watched this show or listened to this show at all, you know that there are far worse. So,
Mm,
job ad itself, I gave this one a 7 out of 10. When we talk about job design, like you said, is this sustainable? Does it make sense? I gave it a little bit of a lower rating out of 10. This is, even though you might not think it, this is designed for someone who's like fresh out of school. If you have a family, if you have a mortgage, if you have pets, you can't do this job. You can't travel to Singapore, for half the year, and be a full-time golfing companion with a full family. They're going to want a lot more of you, and they're paying accordingly. So that's fantastic. But sustainability, nah, I can't see someone lasting in this role for more than like 2 years. I think that there's an expiration date on this role. I also, for job design, need to know how they're going to support this person and like their rent back home or mortgage. And it just needs more information in terms of job design in order for it to be a sustainable role. Visas, all of that kind of thing. They talk about driver's license and vehicle a lot. Why? Why is that? There's some stuff missing in the job design. If it's golf companion and confidant or business advisor, strategic advisor, whatever, then just say that that's what it is.
mhm.
So I think that their job design wise, it's a little bit secretive, it's a little bit vague, it's a little bit ambiguous, and that sets off like spidey senses for me. So I gave the job design itself a 5 out of 10. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I was kind of in the same ballpark as you for this. The job ad itself, even though it was kind of simple. It was 2 pages. I like that. It did very succinctly paint that picture of what they were looking for sure. It did that, but it was lacking a few things for me. It was lacking, and this isn't as common with family offices as it is brands and corporations that are hiring. It was lacking some of the vision, what you're trying to accomplish as an organization. And I would kind of argue that for a family office, you could still you could still take a crack at that. You could still try and do that. You could say, the family office is engaged in this thing. We're trying to accomplish this. We want our time here to really result in that happening. And we're excited for you to play kind of an integral part of
And
that.
family values too, right? What are
Yeah, yeah.
values? Yeah,
And if there is kind of scope creep for the role, looking into kind of family care or tutoring or kind of the cultural advisory type stuff that they've hinted they're looking for, you could kind of weave that in. Right, you could say, the time that we are in Canada, we want to really accomplish this, and this is why. And you could spend a little bit more time getting into the details of that.
for sure.
So that was missing from this for sure, and that would also help build trust. 'Cause there is an endemic trust issue with this job ad. Like, you're going to be wondering, is this real? Am I safe? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because there isn't a lot of credibility that comes along with a black box, right? And what's behind this ad is very much a black box. So I gave this a 6. Like you, I was kind of favorable to it, but there were things that were missing. Another thing actually that was missing that I think is pretty important is that discussion of what happens with housing when you're in Singapore. Is that being funded by your employer or by you? Because that also makes quite a bit of difference for salary, right? Like, if you're going to have to keep on funding your home in Toronto through rent or mortgage, and if you're a new grad, probably rent. I mean, maybe you're living with your parents, so it's no big deal. But if you have to carry rent in Toronto and then rent yourself a
Yeah,
place in Singapore as well, that's going to really cut into your earnings in a big, big way. So maybe that 100 to 120, not as enticing as it seemed at first glance.
true.
The other thing that I would have liked more clarity on is the driving thing. It says, need a license, need to be able to drive in Ontario. Cool, totally fine. Whose car? Your
Right.
car? Their car. There are insurance implications for that, liability implications, right? Whether it's your own personal car or your employer's car.
They did
So that
say
kind of stuff got to be sorted out.
they did say vehicle because I wrote that down in my notes, driver's license plus vehicle. So it sounds like it would be your own car, but are you driving the family around in your car?
That's that's kind of it. That's
Yeah,
kind of it. Yeah. Like your point, yeah, they did say vehicle. But I interpreted that, and ambiguity again, like we run into ambiguity a lot with these. I interpreted that it as you must have your own vehicle to get to the club to do like the golfing practice or coaching or whatever with them. You've got to be able to get yourself there, which makes a heck of a lot of sense because in the GTA, Greater Toronto Area, some of the nicer clubs that you would go to as a wealthy person, not an area is well serviced by public transit. So you're taking an Uber there, or you're taking a cab there, or you're driving there, and these people are obviously saying like, you gotta drive yourself there. That's how I interpret it.
right.
But
Yeah.
maybe it is like you must have your own car to also chauffeur them around. If that's the case, sort out the insurance.
And it's a good point too, though, before you get to your other score about room for multiple interpretations. It shouldn't be that way, right? Like,
Mhm.
be crystal clear when you're writing a job ad what it is that you're getting at and not leave room for different like, obviously people have different
Yeah.
perspectives and stuff, but at the end of the day we're talking about facts here, so give the information as much as possible so that
Yeah.
you're not leaving it open to interpretation, because this has happened to us many times when we've read job postings on the show where we both interpreted something completely opposite of each other and we don't know which one is true, and that's
Yep.
because it's poorly written, it's vague, so yeah.
Yep. Yep. Valid point. Valid point. Ambiguity is not a good thing in job
Mm,
ads.
yeah.
So yeah, how the job ad was written, 6 out of 10 for me. The role design, like you, a little bit less. This is definitely a role that has a clock on it. Like I also don't see this lasting more than a couple of years. And there are some influences on that, right? Like if you do get a new grad in this role, they're going to have probably their own kind of ambitions, both professionally and personally. You know, they're maybe going to want to start a family. They're maybe going to want to like buy a house. They're maybe going to want to start their career in what they studied for. They can't do those things if they are in Toronto 6 months of the year, in Singapore 6 months of the year, and they're kind of an extension of the family office's family, which is what it sounds like a little bit. So there's a clock on this. Maybe that's okay though. Maybe the family office has actually planned for that. Maybe they don't actually see having a full-time golf companion at 120 for more than a couple of years,
Maybe
right?
it's a
Like
contract position, right? Like maybe they're coming
could
from
be,
Singapore to Toronto for like a 2, 3 year contract. That would make sense too.
yep, could be, could be. But if that's the case, like put that in the job ad.
Yeah.
Because being able to say that with a role like this, where you're going to be traveling 6 months of the year to the literally the other side of the planet, like 12 hours time difference between Toronto and that part of Asia, being able to say this is a 2 year engagement, 2 year fixed term contract, you're actually going to encourage more people who are the good fit that you want to apply for it. You're going to take those like 22, 23-year-old kids who have just graduated university on a golf scholarship who might bite at this and be like, oh, you know what? It's only 2 years. Like 240K, that'll pay down most of my student loan. Like, yeah, let's go. I'll just start after that. Dope. Right? But they
Yeah.
didn't say that in the job ad. So would have been stronger if they had, if that's the case. Yeah, so this isn't going to be super sustainable from a role design perspective. The travel thing is going to be tough. It also doesn't talk, and you called this out, it doesn't talk about arranging travel visas and work permits and whatnot. How is that going to work? Now, Singapore does have a lot less regulation in this space than we do, but there is still some, and it's got to be sorted out.
Yeah.
Who's on that? Doesn't really say. And another question to kind of ask is like, are you even eligible to get that permission to work in Singapore as the person who's in this job? Who knows? So like there are definitely some tangles in how this role has been designed that are a little bit question marks. So for me, this role design, it's a 5 out of 10. And that's more about uncertainty than it is the actual structure of the role itself. Like the structure of the role, I'd say it's pretty good for a new grad who kind of checks all the boxes, but 5 out of 10.
But you know what you just made me think about too? This is what happens. This is supposed to be the end.
This
But I
is what happens.
hard to say. You made me think about something. When we talked about, identifying, designing your ideal candidate profile, and then building from there when you're designing job ads, I think that if this is what we think it is, which is it's a family from Singapore coming to Toronto for work in the finance industry, and they want someone to help get them, up to speed with North American culture and golf and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like their ideal candidate is back in Singapore, if I'm being honest. I don't
Really?
yeah, I don't think that I don't think looking in Toronto is the right thing. I think it's someone who maybe went to school in Singapore, someone
Like an expat.
bilingual, right?
Yeah.
And who did their finance degree in Singapore or whatever, and is there that they can bring with them to Toronto, who has experience. Yes, they want experience with North American culture. Doesn't mean you won't find that at a university in Singapore. I bet you have tons of people with that experience, right? People who maybe have gone back and forth their entire lives. So it makes me feel as though potentially they're barking up the wrong tree, and they should be looking at finding their client or their candidate in Singapore and just bringing them. I mean, the challenges of like visa and stuff might actually be less so. I'm not sure, but that was just a thought that occurred to me when we
Yeah.
were talking about that.
You would probably be able to find people
Yeah.
in Singapore, or if not in Singapore, in other kind of countries in the Southeast Asian Rim that are in there that are kind of the same thing. Like you could probably get somebody in Hong Kong uh, who's familiar with North American culture. You could probably find a Canadian in Hong Kong and be like, hey, do you want to come with us to Toronto for 6 months of the year?
This is exactly what I mean. Like a Canadian who lives abroad and then maybe
Yep.
wants that opportunity to travel back and forth on someone else's dime. Like great opportunity. So definitely recommend that they hit up universities and alumni networks and things like that.
Yeah.
On both sides of the planet for this job.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, just pay your assistant to go hang out at like the pro shop and try and poach some people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. I think that means we can consider this post roasted. We'll see y'all next week.
Glad you could spend some time with us on Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. If today's episode helped you make sense of the hiring landscape, or at least feel less alone in navigating it, don't forget to subscribe. You can find us on YouTube or follow the show on whatever podcast app you trust with your sanity. We're always looking for interesting job postings to break down. So if you've got one, whether it's surprisingly good or impressively confusing, send it in. Listener submissions keep things spicy. Follow that link in the show notes for more. Thanks again for listening. Catch us next time when we take on another posting that definitely has something to say.